Welcome everybody to the Friar Talk podcast and YouTube channel. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of a draft recap, talking about the Padres draft haul, talking about some of the picks we like, some of the picks we didn't really like, or maybe not didn't like, but had kind of questions about how early they went. And then tomorrow we're going to have another episode, just another little draft segment as well. But I'll let you start, Chase. What did you think about this draft class? And do you want to just read off all like the first 10 names maybe?
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty solid draft class. We got some guys that I really like, and then I thought we reached on a couple guys we shouldn't have. With the first pick, we got Jackson Merrill. He was a shortstop. He's a high school kid. He was sort of ranked lower than where he was taken, so there's some questions on whether or not he'll live up to that standard. The second pick, though, James Wood, love it. He's a kid from IMG Academy. He's a fielder. He's an athletic freak. Good value on it, and he can really play the outfield. The competitive balance pick is Robert Gasser. He's a left-handed pitcher out of Houston. He went 71 overall. He's 22, and he's a left-handed pitcher. He did pretty good this year. With the third-round pick, Kevin Kopps, he is the Gold Spikes Award finalist. He led the NCAA in ERA, and I believe in strikeouts too, and he won Pitcher of the Year. He's a right-handed pitcher from Arkansas. With the fourth pick, we got Jackson Wolf from West Virginia. He's another left-handed pitcher. The Padres did draft a lot of pitchers and a lot of college pitchers at that. He had a pretty good year. It's questionable because there's players taken after him that could be considered a better player. In the fifth round, we got second baseman Max Ferguson. He's a kid from Tennessee. He bats left, throws right. He's just another middle infielder. In the sixth round, we got right-handed pitcher Ryan Berger. He's from West Virginia. He did not pitch this year. He was injured, but he had a couple good years before that. In the seventh round, we got left-handed pitcher Ryan Oak. He was a predominantly reliever. Though he did strike out 41% of the batters he faced and has a plus fastball. Really like that pick. In the eighth round, we had second baseman Lucas Dunn. He's from Louisville. He's 22. He kind of profiles in as like a normal middle infielder would, though I believe with a little more power and speed to him. And then in the ninth round, we got right-handed pitcher Garrett Hawkins. He was used a little bit in both reliever and starter. He has a really good fastball, and he didn't pitch in 2021. And in the 10th, we took Colton Bender. He's a catcher out of Quinnipiac University. He's a senior. He's 22 years old. He has all right offensive numbers, but he has good defensive makeup.
Yeah, I think everyone wants to probably know about Jackson Merrill. Is it Jackson Merrill or is it vice versa? Jackson Merrill, right? Or Merrill Jackson? Yeah, it's Jackson Merrill. Okay, cool. Shortstop, didn't really have any crazy numbers out of high school. I don't know how much. I don't want to talk too much about the guy. You know, I never seen him play. I never haven't seen his highlights or anything yet. But in high school, didn't really have anything crazy. Ran like a 5'6", 40, something like that. 5'2", 40, only threw 80. It was 89 exit velocity off the bat and then 79 in the infield. So nothing too impressive, but he probably grew. He probably, added some velocity to his fastball, added some infield velocity, added some size so he can hit the ball harder than 80 miles per hour. Finally starting to hit for power. I mean, he was a first-round pick for a reason, I guess. So hopefully that works out. AJ Preller does love drafting guys up the middle. He said it himself. He likes getting guys that are, in the middle part of the field. He likes getting catchers, pitchers, shortstop, second baseman, and center fielders. I don't know what it is about it, but I guess that's what he likes. But it seems like our real first overall pick or first round pick was James Wood at IMG Academy. IMG Academy, for those of you that don't know, is a pretty big sports academy. Pretty much, they have a lot of good sports products out of that school. This guy hits for a lot of power. Has a really good build, runs really fast for his size, throws pretty hard. I think he throws like around 92. So that's a really good pick. Really like that James Wood pick. But I don't want to get too much to these guys. Like I said, I haven't watched many of them. Robert Gasser, I will say, you know, this past year he had a really good year. Had a 2.63 ERA. So really good year at Houston. Before that, I mean, it seems like he made a lot of strides because before that in JUCO, 2020, short season, of course, but 11.05 ERA. 2019, 7.05 ERA. So pretty concerning JUCO numbers, but, you know, at least he came around in his final year of school. And then Cops, 24 years old. I think he probably has the chance to make the most immediate impact because of his age and our need for pitching. So that's all I got.
Yeah, it is interesting with the Merrill pick compared to James Wood, just because James Wood does, like Isaac, you said it does feel like he's the true first-round pick. He's the guy that's coming out of the powerhouse high school and just kind of, he's 6'7", 240, and there's some home runs of his that are pretty amazing. Like, he is destroying the ball. Definitely profiles as having like the larger upside, it feels like. And he could be, it seems like he's a pretty solid fielder, really good arm. And so it kind of seems like almost like he's the guy that is like the prized possession of this draft, at least looking at it. Now, that's kind of the beauty of having AJ Preller as a GM, is that we're looking at this guy's athletic numbers. And those could be when he was a lot smaller, because he did get a lot bigger this last year. And I think since baseball season as well. But Preller must have just thought, this guy is you can't miss him. But kind of before I get into some other guys, Chase, you had brought up before that he does something to save money in the class, and that's why he takes high schoolers. So I brought up, like, you know, maybe he really, really views this Merrill as like a guy that just, you cannot miss him. But why is like the reasoning of taking the high schooler early?
Well, it's not even necessarily a high schooler early. It's a player that he kind of reached for Jackson Merrill. And sometimes he does that so that they can sign him as an underslot and don't have to give him the signing bonus that he would have otherwise if it was a player that, you know, was probably purposely drafted right there. Like if Woods was drafted right there because he was the #1 ranked outfielder and I think like consensus between Baseball America and MLB. If he signed there, you'd probably have to sign him at slot value, but since it was kind of a reach, you can spend less money on him and try to figure out where to get more talented people in the second, third, and fourth rounds that sort of fell. We saw this last year with Cole Wilcox. He was a first-round talent, but he got drafted into third by the Padres. And so what the Padres had did is they signed the first and second round picks under slot and then overpaid Cole Wilcox to make sure that he stayed on the Padres. So with the way that they were taking college pitchers in the third, fourth, sixth, and the competitive balance, probably signed for like $1 million less, because we were like, yeah, you know what, you could always go back to college if you don't like what you're doing, but we kind of want these guys too. So you can either sign for less or go another route, and we're going to take this money and use it to sign the other guys that we drafted.
So it really just comes out to be a strategy to save a little bit of cash, and potentially have specific targets, or maybe not specific targets, but a couple guys that you value a lot higher than everyone else. And that's why you can get a guy like Jackson Merrill early in the first, and then you're just waiting for a guy to fall. And in this case, that guy could have been James Wood. So interesting kind of that logic of that, because I had never heard that before we started talking about it. So it was really cool to hear that. Definitely like James Wood a ton. Bob Gass, I think that's the name we're rolling with for Robert Gasser from now on. Definitely is an exciting player. And then Cops as well. I mean, he was the pitcher of the year, and he's a guy I'm really interested to see how his career turns out. It seems like he has the potential to kind of play that Cal Quantrill role. If you guys don't know, I was a big Cal guy. I loved him. I was upset that he was moved, but Cops could potentially kind of play that role for the Padres. We've seen Drew Pomeranz play it in the past. Don't think that you're going to ever expect Drew Pomeranz to get stretched out a ton again, especially after so many forearm injuries this season. But this year, the guy that's kind of been using that role is Craig Stammen, and he's been great in it. So, potentially Cops could come in and fill that role and kind of be that guy that they use to spot start, long relief, sometimes like a setup man, like just kind of all over the place. So it would be cool if he could kind of develop into that role. But who is your favorite pick, guys? Because I think for me, it's probably James Wood. But who is your guys?
Mine is Robert Gass. I feel like, because I know at one point we were talking about taking Madden in the first round before the Padres had made his pick just because we needed a pitcher that could make an immediate impact. And Robert Gass went toe-to-toe with them when they played. He went 7 scoring innings. He's had some really good outings, and he showed that this offseason he put in work to up his velocity. So I feel like he just has a really good work ethic, and he might be able to make the most immediate impact within the next year or two just because he's a college arm and he kind of has that experience that high schoolers didn't get.
I think mine has to be James Wood. Obviously, the Padres took a lot of college players, James Wood being one of the high school players that they took. Tommy Pham is not going to be around much longer. Will Myers won't be around much longer, I'd assume. So, when you're able to add somebody like James Wood back to the outfield to kind of replace one of them, that's always a really good thing, especially because, you got Fernando locked in for a long time. You got Manny locked in for a while. You want to be able to take advantage of their prime years that they have left. So, adding a talent like James Wood to that lineup, and you're going to be bringing in CJ Abramson, Mackenzie Gore. If Ryan Weathers stays with us, Ryan Weathers will still be around. So, like seeing that we're going to be building a really young core, pretty much all around the whole field, from the infield to the outfield to the pitching staff. And I think James Wood's going to be helpful for this team. He'd be a really good power hitter.
Yeah, I like the pick of James Wood. And the reason why I'm a really big fan of it is his main concern coming out is, can he be a guy that hits for average? And what we've seen is, if you have a guy that has 4 of those tools, 4 of them is a lot better than most guys have coming out, first of all. But that 5th tool, if it's, especially for the Padres, if it's hitting for average, I think what we've seen is that their approach at the plate with this team, with this team and last year's team especially, is so great, and it's just waiting for their pitch, that they're able to generate, I feel like, a lot more walks, or at least view a lot more pitches and that type of mentality. And it's going to take time to, have the entire system work like that. Because you see guys like Tommy Pham and Manny Machado just have very, very long at-bats where they see a lot of pitches. And Machado doesn't really strike out that much. His strikeout numbers are not very high. And so you have a lot of guys like that in the organization. But if that's the biggest concern, and you're talking about a guy that's 6'7", 240, has a plus arm, plus fielder, and he has crazy power, that sounds like, and he's a left-handed bat, it sounds like a little bit different of a version of Trent Grisham. More power, less average, kind of like that kind of balances out. Where Grisham is hitting usually around 250 to 280, I would say, is his range. And he's not going to hit as many bombs as James Wood could potentially have. But Grisham's still providing the pop, and he's still a great fielder, very fast player. He steals bags all the time. That's a really solid left side of the outfield. If you move him to right to potentially take Will Myers' spot in a couple of years, I like it a lot. So I'm a big fan of that. Definitely there's other guys I like a lot, but I think we kind of consensusly were a little bit concerned about the Jackson Merrill pick. Isaac, you briefly got into it, but Chase, did you kind of want to talk about why you were concerned? And also, this isn't to try to discredit Jackson Merrill at all. He could 100% be a fantastic player. We don't know a lot of his film. I'm going to take AJ Preller's evaluation of him over ours as well. He seems to check in on about 50 prospects every year. By far, probably the most active scouting GM in the league. So, not questioning the pick, but kind of are concerned with taking him this early.
Yeah, it's just his numbers don't scream out you first round pick on paper. There could be better numbers in his perfect game showcases, because his high school season didn't scream first round numbers like other high schoolers did. James Wood, just from his athletic ability, screams first round. He was consensus number 1 out there, and he went into the second. Meanwhile, I believe Jackson Merrill was the consensus 72nd prospect, and he went in the first. It was kind of just seems like it should have been flip-flopped, but we didn't get to see him play. We don't have film on him, so we can't determine how good of a player he is. We're just going based off of the stats that we see on paper. And in my opinion, I don't know about your guys' opinion, it just didn't scream numbers 27 to me. But I still think he's a great player.
Yep, guess only time will tell. Like you said, Chase, when I looked at his perfect game profile, Pretty average, I thought. But like I said, I don't know how much he improved in college. I don't know what he did. He probably improved to be, a pretty good player. That's what AJ Preller saw, and he was taken in the first round for a reason. So hopefully we see something good out of him.
Yeah, and then I mean, I definitely think that there's a chance that the athletic profile is not really true of his talent, and we see that all the time in lots of sports. But it's just kind of interesting to point that out and say, hey, his numbers are a little bit different, and it is odd that James Wood seems like a better pick at the 27 spot than your actual 27 pick. It's just interesting how that's the case. But definitely wish all these guys the best moving forward. Do want to get into Gasser a little bit. He throws a fastball, changeup, slider. Fastball has touched like 95, 96. If he can get it close to that, like if he can consistently throw like that range, he has a pretty good arsenal. And then his slider's pretty good as well. So that is really good from him. He's a lefty as also. Cops is a righty, has all the accolades from last season, but kind of was a one-year wonder kind of guy in school. And he's 24 years old. So really interesting to see how he's going to play out. But I believe he threw a cutter that was really nasty, wasn't it?
He himself said it's like 3 different pitches depending on what he wants it to be, but it's like a cutter, slider, and then I don't know what he considers the 3rd type of pitch to be, but he said it's like 3 different pitches to him.
Gotcha. Yeah. So those guys, very intriguing. And we're also going to have a little segment. We're going to talk about both of those guys tomorrow. But Chase, Isaac, anything else you guys want to add before we kind of take off out of here? All right, awesome. Well, I think that's going to do it for this draft episode. And then we're going to have another short one up tomorrow. Going to be about guys that could potentially get called up pretty early out of this class because there are a few names to monitor for that. So that's going to do it for today, though. And thanks, everyone. And we'll talk to you guys tomorrow.